What's up, everybody, and welcome to the newest edition of the Bronx Muchachos podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and we got David with us tonight.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. And, of course, we have our good friend from Locked On Prospects, Lindsay Crosby. Lindsay, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And I'm glad it wasn't last night because we didn't have to miss the WBC to do this because what a game. What a game last night.
That was a game. We'll touch on that. So everybody, you guys all know the drill. We tell it to you every week. Rate, subscribe, review, like on Apple, Spotify, Google, Odyssey, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. If you guys are watching here on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the 5 Reasons Sports Network channel. This segment, of course, is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the best way to get to buy all your tickets for all sporting events such as concerts, live events. You know, baseball next week, opening day for MLB. We got college baseball going on right now. A few more weeks after that, we got minor leagues starting it up as well. So get your tickets wherever you can. Use our promo code Bronx Muchachos, which is all caps, to get a discount on your first order. So, Lindsay, my friend, before we get into all the nitty-gritty stuff for the Yankees, you know, we're talking off air for a quick second. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, some of the things you've been up to in the past since we last talked to you.
So locked on MLB prospects. We did farm previews for all 30 teams. Was an absolute great time. Really enjoyed just getting to dive into each team system. We led off obviously with the Yankees. They were number one in our hearts, right? But also done a lot of work with college baseball. That season is up and going, so trying to keep up with the SEC and some of the draft eligibles. And then Sports Illustrated, I'm working with them. We just launched Braves Today, providing coverage of the Atlanta Braves. And so dabbling in both college baseball, minor league baseball, and major league baseball. A lot of irons in the fire, but it's fun because my life now is just baseball all day, every day. And what else can you ask for, right?
Oh, just be able to go to every ballpark at every time, right?
And it be a business expense.
There you go.
It be a business expense.
There you go.
What
you know
life,
how to write it all
I envy you so much. What do you do for a living? I just go to baseball games. No big deal. You know, don't mind me.
Yeah.
I just show up and we hang out. All right, so let's
save your receipts.
Yeah, right. As long as you have the receipts. All right, so let's get to the nitty gritty. We got the first and the biggest question on every Yankees mind: Oswald Peraza, Anthony Volpe. Who's it going to be?
Okay, so there's who I think it should be, and then there's who is it going to be. And I think they're this close to saying Volpe's going to be the shortstop on opening day. Now, obviously, I'm not going to actually believe it until I see it. I've on this show before, I have said, I think if you're looking strictly from a ability to play the position standpoint, that Volpe should be your second baseman and Peraza should be your shortstop. But Volpe's looked really good in spring. I mean, like the things that you've watched him do, 308, 438, 590 is the slash line in spring. Opponent quality is right up like 6.7, so that's around AA level. So he's looked good. I mean, he's got 2 home runs, 7 extra base hits in like 14 games. 8 walks to 11 strikeouts. He looks really good. He looks like he's ready to be the shortstop. When you saw that Isaiah Kiner-Falefa got moved to take some fly balls in center field, like utility kind of thing, you're like, okay, I'm starting to believe I'm ready to get hurt again. It really feels like they want to do it. Last I saw, Boone said that they did the pound the table meetings this week, the first pound the table meeting to try to figure out the final roster. So I've got to believe there's somebody in that room that is banging the table for Anthony Volpe starting shortstop on opening day so that you can hopefully get rookie of the year consideration out of him and get the compensation that comes along with that.
Now, do you think that if they held him down another month, so they waited till May, and you think he still would be in the running for rookie of the year if they bring him up 4 weeks later? Because to me at that point it doesn't matter if you wait the 4 weeks or not. If he's what, top 3, I think it is, then they still get the compensation. They get that extra draft pick compensation for him because he was such a high draft. I'm sorry, not a high draft pick. He was such a high valued prospect that they'll get more for him by doing that.
So the two aspects of it, the player gets a year of service time for the finish, but the team has to have the player up on opening day to qualify for the incentive.
Gotcha.
And so the worst case scenario to me is you hold him down for like a month. He comes up, he plays well enough to get in that top finish, but not actually win Rookie of the Year. He gets the service time. You don't get any sort of compensation, and he doesn't get the award. Like, that's the worst case scenario to me. So it's something where you need to either bring him up on opening day or just punt it to like June. And on a contending team, can you really say, yes, we're going to have our starting shortstop be Isaiah Kiner-Falefa until June? Like, I don't think you can do that. So,
all right. So then I heard about the contact lens issue that Oswald Peraza has. So where does that leave him?
That's the hard thing for me is this, it feels like they want Volpe to take the job. And it's the classic offense over defense shortstop. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it leaves Peraza. I think that it's something you can get him play time. You can rotate a bunch of guys through. If you think about, obviously, what the infield looks like now. If Donaldson's at third, I think he finally hit a home run the other day. Mm-hmm. But you've got LeMahieu who can play all over. If you have Peraza at short, Volpe at second, you're golden. You're good. If you have Volpe at short, then Peraza kind of like he has the arm. He can play third. He can play second as well. It just feels like a waste at second. But either way, it feels like you have to make some sort of transaction here because Gleyber Torres, I think, had the third most WAR on this team last year. Mm-hmm. Like it was Judge, it was Nestor Cortez, and it was Torres. So Gleyber Torres is set at second base. We're not going to replace him. So it's, do you dump Josh Donaldson and put Peraza there? Do you just rotate those guys through and you end up keeping a young player on the bench because he doesn't have a full-time job? Like, you either need to put Peraza at short and Volpe at second, or you need to do some sort of transaction because you can't put Volpe at third. He doesn't have the arm for it. No. So you have more guys than you need. And the good thing is depth will always work itself out. Like, it's something we talk about all the time. Look at Minnesota right now. They had all of these infield options. They traded away Luis Arias, and now they've got guys on the IL, and they're going to be fine. Everything works out okay. So you'd rather have one too many options than one too few. But I still think the best way to do it is Peraza, Volpe. Maybe it is okay if you put Volpe at short and Peraza at third. And then you just have to figure out Josh Donaldson's owed $27 million. What do you do with that? He's not going to want to sit on the bench.
No, you could always transition him to DH. Have Stanton play left field. Stanton right field. I mean, they're starting to have a little attrition out in the outfield right now. So
Rader's out for a while, and so that gives you in some sort of scenario where if he DHs, Stanton plays in right, then left field, you're still in a scenario where you're looking at Oswaldo Cabrera in left. You're looking at Aaron Hicks in left, Estevan Florial in left. I mean, there's no great options. There's really no great options, and that's with putting Stanton in right. It's just like you have one too many pieces. And in a perfect world, Donaldson comes out in the first month and just tears it up. And you can find somebody who will take the contract, and maybe you can get something of value back for Don, even if it's just like a flyer on a prospect. Get something back, and then Volpe at short, Peraza at third, Torres at second, and let's go on with our lives.
And then you just have DJ just kind of filling in wherever he can, just filling in along the way.
DJ plays 4 or 5 days a week. He fills in. Everybody gets a day off. He fills in for everybody, including Rizzo at first, if Rizzo's back is even working.
Yeah.
I mean, you may have a situation there where he ends up being I think he can play some outfield too. If I remember right, LeMahieu can do a little bit of like a corner outfield spot.
I think he can, but that's what you got Cabrera for. Cabrera can play
Cabrera can play anywhere.
Yeah.
He could be your backup catcher if you needed him to. I mean, he could do anything. So
well, that's what IKF was trying to say. He goes, "Oh, I'll go back and I'll start doing catching again just to stay on the team." Never, I think with him, the ship unfortunately sailed for IKF.
yeah, they loved him when they acquired him. It's like, bro, we have the new IKF. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah,
We've replaced you with a newer model.
A newer model that can hit a little bit more and cost a fraction of what you're going to cost right now.
Exactly. That's the big thing. I mean, yeah, he'll put up a slugging of 420, but he'll also be a minimum salary, $750,000. Let's go for it.
Oh, that's always a good thing. That's always good to have that. So why don't we do this? Since we're talking minor leagues right now, we kind of touched upon the prospects that let's swing it back because you mentioned Eston Florial. Is he even going to make this team? Because I have a distinct feeling that he's been shopped around quietly, and everyone's kind of just waiting for him to be cut, and then they'll take a flyer on him.
So he's on the 40 man right now, and I don't think you need the spot right this second. Like none of the NRIs project to make the lineup, so you can leave him on the 40 man. He really, to me, he feels like he's organizational depth at AAA. That you can call up if something happens. You can stash him at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. I don't see him making the team simply because you already have a crunch of guys. You're either a starting outfielder or one of your backup outfielders ends up being Cabrera. I honestly think Willie Calhoun has a better shot of making the roster than Florial does simply because they went out and like this offseason and spent money to bring Calhoun in. Whereas they just have Florial, and he's here no matter what. Calhoun's on a minor league deal, and he can leave if he doesn't make the team. And when you don't have options left, that's the big. That's the first time a player really has power before they're a free agent is when you no longer have minor league options. If they're looking at depth for the whole season, you keep Calhoun, you put Florial in the minors because Florial has options and Calhoun does not.
No, Florial's out of options. He's out.
Oh, he is?
Florial, yeah, Florial's out of options.
God, I didn't realize he was out of options already.
He's out of options.
He has less than 1 year of service time.
Yeah.
And he's already out of options.
Yeah.
That's wild. Golly, that's on me.
that
makes it even tougher. I mean, you're probably looking at, a situation where you have to, I believe, outright him to the minors and he's exposed to waivers and if somebody takes him or not. I mean, he'll be 20. He's 25 years old. Yeah. So there's a team out there that could be tempted to take a waiver on him. So I don't know. Like, I think the expectation is that's going to happen. And so that's why nobody's bit if you've tried to say, hey, give us literally anything of value. Give us cash considerations. I think that's the reason why. I didn't realize he was out of options. That's on me.
Yeah, no. Yeah, this year, yeah, he just went out of options. I think and someone else was
last year, I think so.
Yeah. And then someone else is right around the corner for the Yankees. There's another name was right around the corner. I can't remember right now, but let's take this all the way down to the low levels. Low A ball, there's some names that we have coming around the corner. Obviously, we've got the crunch that's come in. We got players being sent back down to the minor leagues for their assignments. So who do you see as some of the big the big names in low A ball for the Yankees?
Oh, okay.
Because I know a bunch of these guys that will be moving up from the complex league, and I know that's really not your cup of tea, but I'm thinking like a Vargas is still going to stick around there at some point. Like a couple of these guys will still be there. Maybe like Anthony Garcia might stay there because of his strikeouts, just because he's such a strikeout prone kind of guy.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing at this point in time is the teams are doing minor league games on all the backfields, but they're not putting out a lot of the lineups. And so there's guys that you look at and you're like, okay, yeah, we can talk about like a guy like a Tyler Hardman. He's going to be at Double A, and it's something where they're not putting out the lineups. We don't know. I do think that Jared Cerna, 2019 IFA out of I think it was out of Mexico actually. He's a guy to me. If you look at him, he's in A ball, but he's also in his Rule 5 year. And so this is a year you've seen a little bit of physical development issues with him in the past. You've seen issues dealing with spin. dealing with breaking stuff. And like, this is kind of the last chance for him, right? Like he's got to figure this out, because if he doesn't, he's not going to be protected. And then after that, he's just an org guy. So I'm intrigued by the guys. That's the big thing for me, is that final year of guaranteed control in the organization. What do these guys do? Do they put it together, or is this in essence the end of it for them? Really interesting to see there.
All right, Dave, you want to jump in there?
Sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry, guys. I was having some severe technical difficulties on this end for whatever reason. AT&T is getting a phone call tomorrow just because I have my bandwidth and I have no signal in the room that I'm in my house. Anyway, so Lindsay, let me go back to Josh Donaldson for a second, really quick.
Okay.
I saw from Baseball Rumors 3 days ago. I don't know if the source is that legit, but be that as it may, it's been rumored that the Texas Rangers called the Yankees about Josh Donaldson. If that trade were to take place, like, what do you see prospect-wise coming back from the Texas Rangers? Because in my mind, it's like, I'll take 2 low-A ball starting pitchers and call it a day and throw Aaron Hicks in as a sweetener and be done with it, you know?
That would have to be something where they would have to, I guess, have an idea about platooning Josh Young. Like, he was going to be the starter last year before he got hurt. I think he had a shoulder issue, and so he didn't come up till the end of the year. But if they want to do that, what you're looking at is Corey Seager, Marcus Semien are there for a decade or whatever. It's literally $500 million together in contracts. And so a lot of their prospects have either just been stuck behind them or have moved to the outfield. So you're probably looking at infielders. And what I'm probably doing, I'm probably asking for Ronald Acuna's little brother. It's something he plays a lot of shortstop and second base, but there's been conversations with the Rangers. They're like, do we move him to the outfield? Because Luis Angel Acuna is completely blocked, obviously, by Seager and Semien. He plays second, he plays short. They talk about the arm strength isn't really good enough to play short, so you can't kick him out to third. And so do you move him into second base? Do you try him in the outfield? Because the outfield's a big unknown. They signed Robbie Grossman off the wire and installed him as the starter on day one. So they're trying to find outfielders. You're probably not getting an outfielder from them, but you can probably pry a middle infielder. Not that really is a need of yours right now, but you can pry a middle infielder out of them, and then you can pry arms. And it's kind of like you said, they have a lot of pitching prospects that they're trying to develop. I would look at somebody, Tekoa Roby reminds me a lot. He was a 3rd round pick in 2020. He's very much the kind of guy the Yankees want, because you're very good at putting in those horizontal sweepy sliders. The Rangers gave him one, but it's more of a traditional slider. And so what he has now is he has the 4-seamer, which sits mid-90s, gets to 96 or so. And then he's got a vertical breaking curveball and a changeup. Give him that sweepy slider versus the traditional slider, and now he can throw 4 different directions at 4 different speeds. And you've got a guy that, instead of being we think he might, because of the command issues, he might be a reliever. Now you've got a guy you can absolutely look at, stick him in Double-A this year, let him learn that slider, see if he can be in the rotation by the midpoint of next year. So I think there is a runway there to go out and find a middle infielder that you can move, and then go get an arm that has some velo, something like that, and teach him that slider.
Right.
That's not too bad at all.
So going back to my boy Oswald Peraza, obviously he's not doing so hot this spring. Should we be concerned? Do you think it's the competition that's been created between him, IKF, and Volpe that's kind of messing with his head a little bit? Do you think he's nervous? I thought he was going to come in the spring training and blow the doors off offensive there. So the offense is a little shaky.
Everything that we've seen, or that we've heard about him, is that the makeup is very good. And so I'm not as worried about the spring performance. I mean, it's a small sample size. I think he's had 33 at-bats. And pulling up Baseball Reference, the opponent quality is right around 7. So it's around a Double-A lineup. He's still He still has an OPS of 750. It's not bad. It's just something where some of it is just some players take a little longer to get going. I don't quite know what his offseason looked like. He probably had a really weird offseason, just given the whole how long the team was in the playoffs, but he wasn't really playing a lot. And so I'm always going to take the larger sample size from the previous year over the smaller sample size from spring training, unless you observe something significantly different in spring training. You see a guy come in that physically looks different, either good or bad, something like that. Maybe you can can put more weight on the spring training stats. But I think at this point, Peraza is who he is. We know who he is. For the most part, we know he's going to be a plus defender, and he's going to be probably a little bit challenged power-wise, but can still give you double-digit home runs. Like, I'm not too worried on the spring training stats.
Yeah, same here. Just thought he was going to come in with more of a bang than he is. But the other interesting thing I find very interesting is, we've seen J. Dom get reassigned to minor league camp, even after the monster spring training he had.
Mm-hmm.
But Volpe's still here. Should we be reading into this like everybody else on social media is, or is he just there to kind of just bring him to the end of spring training to fully evaluate what he has and then make a decision from there?
I really think that Dominguez needed to go back to the minors. He had a great spring. Yes. I mean, fully acknowledged. 455, 520, 1046 slugging. Amazing spring. But he's also played a grand total of 5 games in the upper minors. It doesn't always hit right away for everyone. And it doesn't click right away. I want to see him get a little bit more time. Plus, try to figure out what you've got at the big league level. Because I think the best way to deal with Dominguez, before we get to Volpe real quick, the best way to deal with Dominguez is he's your Harrison Bader insurance. If you need to, you can plug him in to start next season as your center fielder if Harrison Bader's no longer here. And if Harrison Bader is here, you can throw him into left field, and you have, in essence, 2 center fielders out there, plus Aaron Judge and Wright, who can play center field just as well as probably either of those guys. And so I think this is the right move, getting him in Double-A Somerset with the intention of getting him to Triple-A sooner rather than later. He's an emergency option this year, but he's your insurance for Bader next year. As far as Volpe, I think a big part of that is just going to be he's a candidate. I mean, they want him to take the job. There's somebody in that room that is pounding the table and saying Anthony Volpe deserves to be the starter at short. And I came in this and said he needs to be at second. You need to have Peraza at short. But the more I sat here and thought about it, and the more we kind of talked it out, I'm thinking, no, I think it works out well if Volpe's at short, because then you can keep Torres at second every day, and you can find a way to get Donaldson out. So I think Volpe, he's not debuted yet, obviously, but he's spent enough time in AAA where it's realistic that he legitimately could be an option out of spring training. Now, starting shortstop for the Yankees on opening day is a responsibility. That is a lot for someone to take on. And so I don't know if he's going to do it or not, but gosh darn it, I'm rooting for it. I really am.
Well, all I know is I wouldn't want to be making the one making the decision between Peraza and Volpe, because Mark and I went to a game a couple weeks ago, and we saw Volpe play shortstop that game and saw Peraza play second base. And Mark and I just kind of looked at each other. I was like, this isn't exactly a bad problem to have. 2 dudes that can easily play shortstop like this. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I do not want to be Aaron Boone having to make this decision, or Brian Cashman for that matter, or Brian Sabian.
Depth will always work itself out. I would rather have too many options than too few options.
Oh, exactly.
The Atlanta Braves are my team. They learned that last year when Ozzie Albies went down. They cycled through 5 different guys trying to find someone to play second base, including the desiccated corpse of Robinson Cano. That's how desperate they were. So having too many options is never a bad thing, because it's a long season. Stuff will happen. And when you're the Yankees, you're guaranteed the season's not going to be 162 games. It's going to be 170 games. You're going to go in the playoffs. You're going to have a deeper run. You need extra options. And we're sitting here wringing our hands about this now. there's a good chance in 6 weeks we're going to look back at this and think we were idiots. Like, oh, it's fine. It's all worked itself out because somebody got hurt, somebody's ineffective, and then this dude fouls a ball off his foot, and all of a sudden we need a shortstop. So good problem to have. I wouldn't worry about it. The bigger question that I have is this the season where we see the Severino breakout? Because like if you're going to sign him, like he's healthy, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something where he's coming up on his walk year. Is this the year when he breaks out? And do you lock him up to an extension now, or do you wait and have him possibly price himself out of the conference?
If it's a breakout, I think he's already had that breakout in 2017 when he was second or third in Cy Young that year.
That's a good point.
So he had the breakout. It's just, and now it's the reconfiguration of Severino after the year off. The comeback with the lat, Tommy John, another lat. I like to refer last season as the phantom injury, more or less, so that they can manage the innings without having to really shut him down per se. They can say, oh well, he's got a strain in the lat, or he's got a strain in the shoulder. Oh well, we're just gonna throw him on the 60-day to kind of make sure he's 100% healthy. And oh, by the way, that just kind of gets rid of. That would stops the worry about having to go over the 140 inning marker that's set for him, coming back from Tommy John.
Yeah, I mean it's something where like I was kind of pricing it out, and I'm like, you could probably do something. I'd guess like 4 years, $70 million right now, and that's something where it's a discount if he performs like we think he will. And just that my thought looking at this rotation was, one, I'm excited about Clark Schmidt in there. And then two, what does Severino do? So I figured y'all would know better than I would.
I like the slide. Not the slider, the cutter that Clark Schmidt has.
Oh my gosh.
That's the game changer for him right there. I think that unlocks the doors for him now.
One of the big things that I talked about this, I think on Monday's show, somebody was asking how you properly evaluate spring training. And I kind of explained the opponent quality metric that Baseball Reference has. But I said, like for pitchers, you're specifically looking for new pitches. And so that cutter, it averaged like 2,650 RPMs, which is right over where Corbin Burns' cutter sits. And it's like, that is absolutely absurd. It's something where he's added a little bit of velo, but you've got that cutter. And it's just, I mean, he struck out something like 17 batters in 11 innings.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, I know that he gave up a bunch of runs in an outing after that. It happens, whatever. Yeah. But it's something where like he was a top 100 prospect for a while. And if this cutter is real, like this dude is a mid-rotation option right now.
He's a mid-rotation option, but being the number 5 starter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's your 5th guy, and it's like, well, yeah, he's also like he could put up a 3.5 ERA as a number 5 if this cutter is real. Give you probably a full WAR strikeout rate of 25%. When it's absurd.
I got you, man, and it's I'm looking forward to that. Especially, I want to see how he does in the cold with that first. But I mean, that's something against lefties that he needed because lefties were teeing off on the fastball. The changeup for him was nothing. The slider and the curveballs, but that cutter against lefties, that's where it's at for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's something where like the 2-seamer, the curveball, those are the money pitches, like you said. Struggle with the handedness options there. He added a slider because that's what a Yankees pitcher does. But it's still one of those like, okay, but for a lefty, you've still got the issue. I think this is the final thing. And again, it's another situation where he can throw pitches in every direction. You can throw different velocities now. You can throw different directions. Like he might break out. Like as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, I probably should go grab him in my dynasty league real quick. Like as we're talking about this, I'm excited about it.
Well, so moving along to our second segment, which is brought to you by Lids. Go to Lids, you hit up our link tree, check out the promo code. They got a different promo code every 24 hours. So go check them out. Great deals every day. Get your fresh gear for the 2023 season. I got my dad and Aaron Judge jersey. He absolutely loves it. Loves it. Loves it. So support us, support the podcast. Go to Linktree, hit up Liz. Use the promo code of the day. Get your savings in and get your fresh gear for 2023. So moving on to the minor leagues. So we're going to start in low A Tampa. Talk to me
High
about
ball.
Antonio Gomez.
High ball.
Oh, high A.
Yeah, high ball.
No,
My
so
bad.
the thing for Antonio Gomez, 2018 IFA, the power is real, right? The arm is kind of massive. The thing I worry about is he had a swing and miss last year in the zone of just under 30%. And so it's something where your power tool's only as good as your hit tool, right? Massive arm, massive power. How well can he translate that into games? Last year, he got like 300 something at bats. I think he hit like 8 home runs. It's something where he's got to just get better with the contact ability. And it's also because the defense, I think maybe at best, is going to be average. He's in a situation where he needs to have fully automated balls and strikes versus just having the challenge system because the framing's not great. Sometimes he struggles moving laterally, but the power is stupid good. It's fantastic power. When he gets a hold of one, it's gone. I think his average exit velocity was just under 90 miles an hour, which is big league caliber already. It's just, we've absolutely got to figure out the in the zone swing and miss, specifically on breaking stuff.
So
Gotcha.
on high ball, one of my new favorite minor leaguers is Spencer Jones. I think he starts in high ball. I think he finishes in Double A, possibly getting a cup of coffee in Triple A. Tell me I'm crazy about that.
I legitimately think Spencer Jones is the best athlete in this entire system. He is. I saw him in college. Like I've been within about 15 feet of him physically. when he was in college at Vanderbilt when they came to Auburn for a series, and is as big as you think. He is as muscular as you think. He's faster than you're expecting. And so the contact skills he gets I think Pipeline and Baseball America have him as slightly below average contact wise. For me, I think he's above average contact ability because he has some of those holes high and low in the zone that everybody who's 6'5", like 6'5", 6'6", everybody that size has those holes. But for being that big, he's done a really good job at closing the holes and getting better at not letting, not having in the zone swing and miss. And then he absolutely crushes lefties. He can take them the other way, which is not something you see a ton. As long as the speed doesn't back off. He's above average speed right now. The arm, to me, is above average as well. If the speed drops off a bit, then you struggle with, does the defense end up dropping down to average or below average? But I love Spencer Jones. My industry dynasty league, I actually this offseason went out and got Spencer Jones, and he is now in my dynasty league. I'm holding him long term because I absolutely think he's fantastic. I am a believer in the power. I'm a believer that this organization can help him close the holes in his swing because you have a guy with the same physical stature who did it. I'm not saying he's the next Aaron Judge, but I'm just saying you can a lot of those lessons you learn, like you learn to teach Judge, you can hand those over. Those same lessons are applicable to Spencer Jones, like just copy paste.
And the crazy thing is too that he's left-handed. That even makes it even more deadly. So my favorite high A guy is Josue Penacual. I really gravitated towards this kid last year as he went from low A and blew the doors off to moving up to high A, where he experienced a little bit of a drop off because of probably the height and competition. But his slider is absolutely disgusting. It literally just sweeps out of the zone like a frisbee. Do you potentially think he could be the next up and coming quote unquote starting pitcher in the organization to complement maybe Clayton Beater and Will Warren at that kind of a level?
So he's going to have to be a reliever, right? I think he's like 5'10", 160. Like physically, he's a little bit of a smaller guy. And so because of that, I worry about
158.
There you go. I knew it was something that was a little bit, I don't know, smaller, I guess. But no, I absolutely do think that the slider's kind of filthy. And then if you looked at what he did specifically with runners on base, the strikeout rate wasn't amazing. I think he struck out like six guys per 9 in high A Hudson Valley, but he seemed to be more effective with runners on base. And that's very much a mentality thing. You can't teach that. And so I like him as somebody who can come up, can be out of the bullpen. I'd love if he would add a cutter just to kind of give him another weapon against other-handedness. But I do think that he is you're probably looking at by the end of next year, but by the end of this year, if everything broke right, you could have him as an option out of the bullpen. I still think it's probably better to wait until next year, but I think he's good enough where his stuff could compete at the major league level by the end of this year, especially if he adds some sort of pitch that breaks the other way.
So if you had this, compare him to somebody that we have either in the higher end of the minor leagues or even on the major league roster, what pitch file do you think he is a comp to that we already have?
Oh, comps are really tough. I'm
not gonna let you off easy, bro.
Yeah, like we totally we don't even do comps on my show because I'm like, oh man, comps.
Whoops.
No, you're good. It's cool. Mark knew that because Mark listens to the show. It's fine.
Oh, ouch.
Oh, let me see. I think what he could be. I think what he could be is he could be a guy that can be used in the way that a Will Warren can be used, or that a Clayton Beater can be used as far as relief. I do think he's limited. Did somebody's cup just fall over? I do think he's a little limited.
Oh, yeah, that was my cup.
Yeah. But like, I do like the ability of the stuff to play at a major league level, and that's the hardest part, obviously. So a little bit undersized guy. He kind of reminds me of some of the issues you have with a guy like a Richard Fitz, right? Who just the stuff hasn't quite he hasn't been able to hold the stuff deeper into games. And so it's something where, the fastball slider will absolutely play in relief right now. So we'll see what happens.
All right, let's keep moving up the food chain for a minute. Now let's hit the Double-A, which last year their Double-A team was, when it ended, was absolutely stacked. I mean, you had Trey Sweeney, Dominguez made an appearance, and he demolished.
He did great in the playoffs.
That final game, homering from both sides of the plate. I mean, he showed out in that. He took him 1 week to get adjusted, and then just showed out the rest of that entire series. You had Elijah Dunham there, you had Brandon Lockridge up there.
Trey Sweeney.
Yeah, Trey Sweeney, Everson Pereira. I mean, there was a list of guys there that just showed up and showed out. Not all of them are obviously going to stay in Double-A. So obviously the highlight and headliner for this whole thing is Dominguez in Double-A, and we touched on it before. There's an outside chance he makes it to the majors. Probably get a cup of coffee, possibly in September. But I think you mentioned it before, but really, how long do you think he stays? Do you think he stays till? Because I mean, they've really been moving up around the All-Star break. Do you think he sticks around the All-Star break again, or do you think, or it just depends? Like if he shows out again, he's going.
Given the spring that he had, if he has one good month in Double-A, he's moving to Triple-A. It's just something where he has answered every question at every level, and he's answered them so emphatically that the only reason you would keep him in Double-A, because Double-A is the penultimate development level. Triple-A is the preparedness for the bigs. Double-A is developing your skills. The only reason you maybe keep him in Double-A is if you thought there was something specifically that he had to get better at on the field. Like, do you still think he has a weakness against sliders? Do you still think he needs to work on this or that? And I don't see a ton of that stuff that he has to work on. He just needs the reps. And so when you're at a point in the development curve when you've worked on the core skills and you're just trying to polish them up and make them better. Put him in AAA so he can face those other quad A guys. He can face those major league veterans on minor league deals who know all the tips and tricks, and then be ready to come up if the big league team needs him because somebody strains an oblique in July. So, like, I think there's an outside possibility of seeing Dominguez this summer if there's injuries at the major league level. Like, I think he's just about ready. So he maybe spends a month in AA, probably, as long as he hits, and then goes straight to AAA.
Right. Yeah, because the only knock I hear right now on him is that it's the routes that he takes, like, and that could just be, lack of reps out in the field. Even though, I mean, I know coming through the Dominican leagues, I mean, they put him at all the positions. I mean, if they wanted to sign him if he wanted to be signed as a catcher, he was going to be the top catcher in 2019. If he was going to be a shortstop, he would have been the top guy over Robert Poisson, which I would love to sit down and have just off air have this conversation about Dominguez and Poisson and how those two just went completely different
opposite directions. Yes. Yeah, that definitely happened. Wild.
Oh, it's crazy. And that one we're gonna have a conversation off air, and maybe we'll have something. Maybe I'll jump on your pod. We'll have a conversation about that.
There we go. Talking about international free agents and why some of them just don't really work out. They never really figure it out.
They don't. It's the weirdest thing. But so Trey Sweeney, I've heard rumors that he is going to be making. I heard one that he changed his approach at the plate. He changes his a lot of things with his stance. I heard that the Yankees made the addition of Omar Minaya, and they brought back Brian Sabian, two really respected guys, two guys that are not fully on. They have the pulse of what's going on with the scouting eye. I've heard that they want Sweeney move into third base. I know that kind of drops his trade value in the long run, but in the long run of possibly making it to the big leagues, is this the better move for him?
I think it's going to be, given the age of Donaldson versus the age of Torres, I think it makes more sense to put him at third. It's something where the speed to me is a little bit actually probably below average. And so he's looking at a ceiling of a utility guy if you don't put him at a spot and let him learn. I do worry about the overall arm strength, about if you put him at third as an everyday player versus using him as a utility kind of guy, you run into the situation of his arm strength maybe like at best is average. Now, Volpe's got better when he went to Wake Forest to the pitching lab, did some of the work. Maybe that's something Sweeney can do as well to bring that arm up from maybe average to above average. It's third base feels like a better fit simply because the hands are kind of stiff and the actions aren't as smooth as you would like from a shortstop or even really from a second baseman. So third base feels like the best option. I do also worry that the power profile doesn't really fit there, right? The average exit velo last year was like 85, 86 miles an hour. And so it doesn't fit the profile of a third baseman that hits for power and has a strong arm. But if it works, if he's still contributing offensively, go for it. That's kind of the thing. And it all kind of came around to, he got better last year as far as power, second half of the year, because he stopped swinging and missing up in the zone. And he just got better at not chasing and doing that Yankees thing of hit strikes hard.
Yeah.
Hit strikes hard. He got better at that. So there's probably a little bit more adjustment that can happen. And if it does, you're looking at a guy who can play third base probably at an above average level if it all comes together. It's just, I've now named 2 or 3 things he has to do to get there. So back to Somerset this year, probably spending most of the year at Somerset working on the pitch recognition and the swing decisions and working on improving the arm strength.
All right. And obviously another, we're just touching base about the international free agents. We had Everson Pereira, who in 2017 was the Yankees' big signing. Is he slotted for sticking around on the team? Is he going to be, with him and Dominguez at the same level, Pereira, I think, moves over to right field, left field, whichever one, so that they can make way for Dominguez to learn as much as he can in however long he's going to be at Double A. So where does Pereira fit in this whole thing, or does because I don't think he proved enough to make the jump to Triple A yet.
Yeah, I would leave him at Double A. I would probably have him in right field. The arm strength's above average. The accuracy of the arm isn't as good as you would like, but the actual raw strength for the arm is there. So I'd put him in right field. I do think, I do think that the speed, like he's fast enough, he gets good jumps. So the reads, routes, reactions are decent from what we've seen in center. I think like if you had to, he could stick there. But I think you go ahead, you put him in right, and you say, hey, you're going to be a right fielder. You're going to be an above average right fielder. Can you get to plus? Let's do that. The bigger issue for him, and I think something that also, if you take center field off his plate, the bigger issue is at the plate, right? It's something where he hit way too many ground balls early in the year last year. They worked on that a bit. He got a little better at breaking the ball up in the air, but he still has some chase stuff. He still had some timing issues where he'd be geared up for a fastball and he'd swing through a changeup, or he'd sit off speed and couldn't catch up to the fastball. So move him to right so that he doesn't have to put in the mental and the physical energy into playing center field so he can focus on improving at the plate. Because the power's good. I mean, he has fantastic raw power. You see it in batting practice. He just can't always get it into games because your power tool's only as good as your hit tool.
Fair enough point. And speaking of power tools, I mean, you have Andres Chaparro and Tyler Hardman. Are they bumping up to? Do you think they're going to be in AAA, or they making another run Double A, then taking their talents up to Scranton Wilkes-Barre?
I think Hardman probably starts at Double A. If you watched last year, he struck out about 30% of the time. And so I think it's something where swing and miss in the zone was higher than they wanted. And so you probably send him back to Double A at least to start the year. I mean, part of it is, I think he only got like a week there. So really you just want him to actually go through the level. But some of the stuff that you saw from him, both in High A and in Double A, just wasn't great. As far as the slash line was fine, 262, 329, 480, but the actual underlying numbers weren't that great. And it's like, you're really good at putting a bat on a ball. And when you put a bat on a ball, that ball is destroyed. But if they throw you a slider, like we all know you're not going to hit it. So let's send you back to Double A. And I just want you to face every slider guy if we have somebody who throws a bunch of sliders, we're going to bring you to the plate every single inning until you hit them. So Tyler Hardman probably going back to Double A. And it's all down to cut down on the swing and miss, specifically on the sliders. I've heard he's worked on it over the offseason. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't seen him yet, but hopefully he can do that because I think he has a lot of talent. I think there's a couple guys who are all vying for this third base job that you can kind of see is going to be vacated somewhat soon by a 38-year-old Josh Donaldson. And it's like, who's going to step up and be the heir apparent to third base? He's got a shot if he can just, figure out the swing and miss issues.
And then Chaparro, obviously, I mean, they have him playing third, but I keep saying he's more of a first baseman than himself. He's big. He's not a thin guy, and that's fine. I don't care that he's not thin, but I think he's outgrown third. He's outgrown third base and kind of needs to be moved on to the other side of the diamond. But he's got some power too.
Defensively, he's really more of a first baseman at this point. Kind of looking at like what he did, the power, like you said, it is real. His isolated slugging in Double A was 305. And his actual slugging came out to 594. But the ISO thing, 300 ISO slugging is huge. Like the power's real. I'm telling him, hey. Signed Rizzo to a multiple-year deal. The DH spot does exist. The quicker you pick up first base, the quicker you're able to start picking these balls for us, off the dirt, these one-hoppers, the quicker you're going to get up and you're going to be, alternating between DH and playing first base, and you're the heir apparent to Rizzo, who I was kind of surprised he got a deal for as long as he did, but he is a great clubhouse guy. But just something where it's like, hey, Chaparro, this can be you if you're willing to commit to moving to first base, and that also frees up your third base for a guy like a Hardman.
That's true. That's you're 100% right on that. And then this on the pitching side. I mean, we got Gomez and Vasquez. Those two guys. I mean, they're kind of reaching into their mid. You got Gomez who's 23. You got Randy Vasquez who's 24. Are they even guys to kind of hang your hats on? Maybe more of a Gomez. He's got something out, he might be able to stick, but are these guys that we're kind of looking forward towards as say possibly a Severino might be on his way out the door. Nestor Cortez, you don't know what's going on there. Garrett Cole has an opt out soon as well. The fifth spot is always going to be kind of a rotating door unless Clark Schmidt really locks it down. So can these guys kind of come up and start pushing, knocking at the door, saying we're here as well?
I like Vasquez a lot more. I think the curveball, that curveball is one of the best curveballs in the system. And his stat line from last year is a little skewed because in July, he gave up 5 home runs in 14 innings. But outside of July, he only gave up 6 home runs the rest of the year. Between the 4-seam, 2-seam, the curveball, he added a cutter in the offseason. Between those pitches, the strikeout rate should come back up to somewhere near 30%. And it's just, for him, it's just a matter of command. Can he throw enough strikes where we can see, yes, he can stick in the rotation. But he's the one that I like a lot more because you've got so many options as far as the fastballs, the curveball, the cutter, a lot of different things. Again, another candidate to get one of those sliders, although his curveball is kind of a sweepier curveball. So I don't know if that's going to work or not. But just better than the stats because of that bad July and a little bit of work on the command. I think Vasquez can be the guy to jump up and take a starting spot going forward. He's the one of the two that I like a lot more.
Okay. And then let's round this thing out in the upper level in AAA. I have this guy as kind of my outside shot. Was going to be my outside shot making the team as the dark horse, which is Elijah Dunham. There's just something about him. Lefty. He can play 2 of the 3 outfield spots, more corners, left, right. He plays some first base. There's something about him. He's kind of got that for Yankee fans. He's got that Brett Gardner kind of feel to him, where the sum of the parts is not the greatest, but then when they work, I mean, there's something about him, and he's kind of got that edge to him, and he's got that chip on his shoulder that he's got to prove everybody wrong at all times. And when he's done playing, his jersey has to be washed because it's going to be grass stained. It's going to be dirty. He's that kind of guy that you want on your team, that in essence, like a glue guy, but more a blue collar glue guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Fun fact there, 40th round pick in 2019, a round that doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, I think greater than the sum of his parts is a great way to describe what he does. Classic glue guy, one of those that in a vacuum, he's not above average at anything, right? But it's just something where his speed is average, but he totally can get stolen bases because he's really good baseball instincts and knowledge. Power isn't necessarily mind-blowing or amazing, but he can catch one just right. He can pull it. He can get it out. He is limited to a corner spot, which worries me in Yankee Stadium because your left fielder, in essence, has to be a center fielder as well. So a little bit nervous about that, but I do really think it's just kind of that power-speed combination. I think he was one of maybe 4 guys in the system last year that stole at least 15 or hit at least 15 home runs and stole 30 plus bases. Not many people do that. And if you can do both of those things, despite only having average speed, you're just a ball player. And there's always room in Major League Baseball for ball players. And the comparison that you gave was spot on as far as, he's not in a vacuum. He's not your best option, but you're going to be happy to have him on your team. And everybody else is going to be happy that he's in that club. So he may end up being a double A to triple A guy this year. I think he's going to move to probably triple A this year to start off the year. But absolutely is like he has a future on a championship club as a chemistry guy who is your backup outfielder and gets pinch hits late in games. Like that's what he's going to do. He's just a ball player.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not that top prospect that you were kind of drilling over, but he's that guy that, like I said, he's a Brett Gardner. He's
a ball player.
Be there. He could be your guy that when you put him in there, it's high energy. Like you feel the difference when he's in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And
he can play a bunch of positions, kind of like Cabrera can. So he can be versatile for you as far as covering first, covering left, covering right, do a lot of different things. It's traits that 26th man on the roster has to have, and he's got them, and it's great.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these Yankees that are coming up, they're not coming in as, with the exception of your high end talent. There's going to be there's a lot of guys that are learning multiple positions that there's going to be roster flexibility they can play. Like as Jones, I think left field is going to be his. I think him and Dominguez are going to fight for center field at some point, and then later down the line in Miami, come up. Shortstop. We're already talking Peraza and Volpe, but for me, I said from last year that I think the real shortstop of the future is going to be Roger Bernard. I think someone graded him at an 80. I think it was baseball. I mean, he put on muscle. His arm is even so that's, and he's only down in the Dominican Summer League last year. So I know that's not in the scope for you. I know once he hits stateside, that's something that we'll be talking about more. But yeah, so. All right. But yeah, so let's talk two more guys. Let's talk two more pitchers. Johnny Brito and Sean Boyle. So have you what do you think of those guys? I mean, what do you think of their chances of are they at this point just roster depth, or are they kind of they have something to prove or something to give to the team?
So Brito's done a really good job of adding in pitches to make himself competitive, right? The changeup is really good. Like that's one of the better changeups in the organization, and he's really good as far as control and as far as throwing strikes. The issue was he didn't really have like lefty options, and he didn't really have some sort of consistent breaking ball. He threw a four-seamer, he threw a two-seamer, he had the changeup, and so he added a cutter last year, and he added a gyro slider, and thought it was an odd decision. I would have expected him to add the sweepy slider like you usually see, but there are some guys who throw both. I just love the fact that he can do mid-90s with a two-seamer or a four-seamer. He's got a cutter in the low 90s. He's got a gyro slider in the low 80s. But throws tons of strikes. Really feels like he's going to be a bullpen piece, probably your 26th man on the roster, but he's the guy you go to when somebody gets blown up in the second inning and you got to cover 5 innings. You call Johnny Brito, he comes out there and he just absolutely eats 5 innings for you. And then 3 days later has to spot start because somebody else tweaks an oblique in warmups. He goes out there and does that as well. The changeup is really good. And so because of that, he has enough he can build off of to turn over a lineup. I don't think he's a starter. I don't think he's that kind of guy. But, I mean, Scranton started using him in relief some last year because they saw this. And I think it's just you want that fireman bulk reliever guy. He feels like that. Jesse Chavez with Atlanta has been in the bigs now for 18 years by being this guy. It's starting covering 4 innings and then 3 days later starting a game as the opener and going 2 or 3 innings because somebody got hurt in warmups. That's what Johnny Brito is going to be.
All right. All right, Lindsay, I think that's gonna wrap it up for tonight. So listen, thank you, Lindsay. Thank you for joining. Please give them all your credentials. Tell them where to find you. Tell them everything about it, bud.
I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. You can follow my show, Locked On MLB Prospects, wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And then all of the Major League Baseball writing at bravestoday.com. That's new.
Oh, good. Well, for all the Braves fans that are out there, we've got to take it from there. Dave, thanks for joining us for the end. Take it away, brother.
Yeah. God, AT&T is so getting wrecked tomorrow. That's all I got to say. I feel bad for whoever answers the phone when I call tomorrow. But be that as it may, Lindsay, thanks again, brother, for jumping on with us. Sorry I was MIA for half the show. But for everybody listening in the 20 countries across the seas and around the world, we thank you. Thank you for everyone jumping in on the live chat, including myself, Maria Goretti Rocha. Thanks for jumping in on Facebook. We appreciate you. So for our last segment is brought to you by our own merch store, the Bronx Muchachos merch store. Go check it out on our link tree. Powered by Teespring. We got a fresh new design out there, interlocking BM with all cursive Bronx Muchachos at the bottom of it. Comes in navy, black, and deep red. Go check it out. And all of our other merch we got going on our link tree. Go check that out too. So for Alex and Danny, who couldn't be here, and May, who's hard at work, Mark, Lindsay, Bronx Muchachos, signing off.